Welcome to another show of Transmutations. I'm your host, Stone Hobbit, and I am coming all the way from a little country called New Zealand at the bottom of the globe. It is freezing during the nights, but it is beautiful and hot during the day. We are having droughts in some areas, and we are having freezing temperatures and snow in others. Pretty much like what's happening all around the globe at the moment, natural disasters. But we'll get into that later on. I would like to say that I'm live on People for People Radio. You can find us at peopleforpeople.ning.com. Great bunch of minds going to the next level, going to the next frequency. We are moving along. We are finding solutions. We are seeing the created problems and distractions. We are looking at the information that is coming in that we are surrounded with, what we are being bombarded with. the different layers and levels and dimensions of emotions and skills and environments, everything that we are working in right now. All these great minds are coming together. We're all such great minds. We have so much information. We are now all concentrating on sending that information and that energy. We are becoming that crystal mind that they find that we all play a role in. So look at the experiences that you have had during your life so far, all the different encounters, all the different scenarios, all the issues that have come up, the different forms of programming. You are now able to turn around and take yourself out of that picture and investigate every situation, every emotion, every chemical response. You are so much more than the person just sitting in front of the TV, right? There are so many new areas of what I label transferable skills. What you don't know and what you're not aware of that actually build your character, that actually are what you are now, from all the little tidbits of information that you have gathered that has created whom you are today, that has woken you up in different levels, your journey, the journey and adventures, the experiments that you have been part of, the different areas that you have played roles in within yourself and within everybody else's lives. So welcome to Transmutation. I'm your host, Stone Hobbit, and welcome to People for People Radio. So today I want to cover age concern. You know, we are all going to age. There are so many different areas that we are being bombarded with right now. We are now in an age of what I'm labeling right now as insecurity. If you don't become aware of it, we have all of this other distractions and wars and toxicity and everything else, the frequencies coming in, but you've got to also remember, how long do you want to go through this experience? How long do you want to be this adventurer? Have a look at what's going on. You've got to become safe. I am speaking from a warrior / experiencer experience. All right. Now, the situation that I'm in, if you're not aware of who I am and the jobs that I do, I'm a caretaker. I'm a guardian. All right. I look after my environment. Right now, if you were to know me and come into my household, you will say that I am living in a world of chaos. But my chaos has a routine. I understand every level and where I've got to focus my most needs on at that particular time. I'm having a conversation yesterday with a young person. It's not about wants, it's about needs. It's about breaking down the spell castings, the different areas of who we are, where we come from. We don't really need to focus too much on the depths of where we come from, as long as I'm speaking from personal experiences and how I'm getting to the information and the experiences that I'm going through and have gone through. So where I'm at right now, I am taking care of an elderly gent, and I do this with multiple persons and have done it for over 20 years. Being involved in this environment, you get to see things that you really, first of all, you don't want to know. You go into a denial stage. No, this is not happening. This can't happen. It makes you angry. It puts you into conflict. You're going through this conflict of communication, the information that's coming out. You have to analyze everything. Did this really happen this way? Does this sit right? What is going on here? You can't just walk away from it. You are forced into your own form of investigation. The only way we come about knowledge and clean knowledge is to investigate the journeys and information coming into us. Now we are given all these different areas of distraction and information. We are taken off the path. There's so many different entities at work right here. But it is you. It is me. It is us taking this journey. It doesn't matter the skin you're in, whether you're a bird, a reptilian, whatever form you are taking. You are taking in knowledge and information. And at the end of the day, from where I'm coming from, now everybody has their own experiences. Everybody finds their own paths. You know, it doesn't mean that we're all going to go to the same locations. We come from so many different areas of information gathering, as you are a gathering conduit. You go out there. You are this living entity, this living consciousness. You know, you go out there, you generate this energy by the information that you have, the information that you gather. You are on a mission. Well, sorry, I'm not going to say you are, because this is where I'm looking and I can see. I'm sort of living on this planet under the earth. I'm living outside of the earth. I'm watching, looking down through. I'm above those guys looking down, watching us. We have these incarnations of all these different levels. We are capable of so much, so many levels. It's coming to a point where all the energies are colliding. They are turning and twisting the planet, which is turning and twisting your physical and your mental aspects of what you can see out there. Now, I can't say to you clearly where this information is coming from. This is not what I wrote up. This is not what I prepared. This is the other information that comes through the conduits. I can't tell you whether it is coming from me or whether it is coming directly from another source. But I can tell you that these are findings, these are feeling states, these are emotional connections that I've had to these experiences around me. And now I know that I have enough evidence and experiences and been a member of so many different levels of experiments that I have a voice, that I know what I'm saying, that I can back up. I can back up my kawa. Okay, this is me, all right? I know who I am. I don't know where I come from. I don't think any of us out there know where we truly come from. But the experiences that we have lived through, the journeys we have lived through, the people we have interacted with have helped us through these levels, and this is where we are now. This is where we have become. We have had to go through this on multiple occasions to become aware of the different levels around us. Once it's like, you know, I hate it when I hear people turn around and say, we have created this for ourselves. We look up to saviors to save us. There's somebody else to save us. That does not sit right with me. When you go to eat food, what do you actually crave for? What do you feel like? You know, for most of families, and I'm not going to say all families, I mean, you all have to take part. You have to become participants in this. You cannot allow just women to do all these set roles. You are here as well as males. Also participate in those female roles. And that works vice versa. Females work in those roles. Just because your bodies are slightly different and your minds work slightly differently, you have come together as two different types of species working as a one unity to create another life force. And this goes on and goes on. And then we see the coming in of the different chemicals, the different invasions. We've gotten to a level where we got to that peak, that crossroads, that point of light energy. We understand, we are able to read our DNA. We are able to stand in that crystal mind and read that information in front of us. You are there now. We are there now. I am there now. We now need to see the bigger picture and see how all those organizations have worked against us. There are so many of us working in these different organizations doing our slavery because we don't understand the entrapment that we've been pulled into. For me, I have gone through so many different layers and been bombarded, been put into new layers and different areas. And every time I have come out of it, and I have to say that I have come out of it, those around me do not know the magnitudes. And when I was able to go, okay, holy cow, that is, how the hell did I get through that? There's no way that me could get through that. But I did. When I look around to see how many others have gotten through that, there's not many. And I'm thinking, okay, there has to be something to this. I want to know why I survived it. What was it that I did to be able to get out of those different layers of stuck states, those different layers of those entrapments? Every single location that I ever lived in, ever worked in, was put into, made to produce of, be connected to, have the different abilities of. We are that. We are in the now. We have all of those skills. We have our past lives. We know the right information. You do choose your path. You do create your environment. I chose this environment, and the other day I realized that, I'm sitting there having a conversation and looking at 3 different, 4 different, 5 different stages. It didn't matter whichever stage it was, this was going to be the outcome. I tried to escape it. I got to understand the different stages and the different dimensions. There are layers within layers within layers of each of these dimensions. I listen to I don't name names, but I listen to different personalities out there. And sometimes I'm just like, what the hell? Where the hell are they gone? Why are they doing what they're doing? They know they can do better than that. They've got to that point. They've got that information. They can go further than that. Why are they coming back and being sellouts? They know who they are. I don't need to name names. Now, okay, I am now going to get on back on track. My show today is a little bit in people skills. What are people skills? Breaking down people skills. Now, this is a multi-dimensional phase. Now, when I talk about this information, I'm only giving you a little bit of the experiences and information because, each week I do a show and I'm finding that I'm writing 40 to 60 pages on this particular information because of my findings through the different levels of experiences that I've had. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm already gone through the different so-called philosophers and psychologists. And when I go to any medical industry, I question everything. I question the type of medication. When you could turn around and ask your doctor what that medication that you're about to prescribe me is, the makeup of, the compounds, the effects, the chemical effects and so on, and they can actually answer you. You go back and you research it, and they're right on the mark, including the side effects, the reactions, the actions, the mental, the physical, the damages. Then you know you're talking to somebody you want to talk to. But if you go there and you ask them and they can't tell you crap about this, it will help you with this area, it will calm your mind, it will help you sleep. They don't tell you everything, okay, because they don't know it. They are not able to know it. Their education is only paid for by so much energy. They're now hooked in to a syndicate or a group of entities that absorb the energy and interest. Sorry, I was having a conflict there. There was a battle going on, and I'm not going to stop this. Where I've come from, I know that I have different forms of attacks, different forms of parasitical entities, different forms of distractions coming in to try to knock me off the path that I choose to be on, because I recognize the path that I'm on. It's not about becoming something special or having a power over something else. There's nothing of the sort. I don't need that crap. I've seen what it creates. I don't need to be part of that group, that enterprise, that organization, that species, that DNA, that imprint. I don't need to be that. There is enough experiences and experiments that have happened upon me to allow me the knowledge of who I am and what I say and where I stand in my own truth. I know that I have committed crimes in certain areas of free will abuse, against somebody else's awareness, damaging and leaving an imprint on somebody else, and how I can rectify that, and how I can't rectify it, what I have to take with me to the next levels, the next stages, whatever they may be. But I now am I'm really hoping, put it that way, I'm hoping that I've done enough in this incarnation to get to a stage where I can easily identify at an earlier stage in the next incarnation. Because as a light energy being of collecting information, trying to be the better energy and be on this journey that I'm on, that's the level I want to get to. I don't like seeing death around me. I like to see the experiences people are having and the every grey cloud has a silver lining. All right, now grey is silver. It doesn't work. None of that works. I have gone past the areas of spell casting. I now have to work in a level of balance where when somebody's having a communication form with me, whether it's physical, mental, auric fields, dimensional fields, like for instance, if somebody sits pretty close to me, I'm no longer going in just the mind to mind or the physical to the physical. I am now going into the different layers of dimensions. I'm interacting with them on those dimensional selves. I'm doing this with animal, insect, plant, my surroundings. I walk bare feet more now than I used to. In my childhood, it was a force to put my shoes on. It was a force for me to wear them at school. Every school photo that I can actually get any form of, because my journey has led me to hardly any identification of who I was or the journey that I've taken. I wasn't meant to be here in this now and what is happening now. There have been so many areas when I should have been taken out. And I literally say, taken out. I wasn't meant to be here in this vessel at this time. I am a soul walking, if you want to call it soul. I basically like the energy sense of it. I'm an energy. There's an energy that is created by the form of consciousness. I am that. That is how I am seeing myself and all the experiences that I'm having around me. And by doing that, that is allowing me to be able to see there is more to the environment. We're in a certain density. This density has been labeled 3D. That 3 is a distraction of the density. When you see that you are not held by that thickness, that density, you can journey through these other densities. You are already doing this. You are already aware of these different stages, who you are. Now I'm speaking through as a conduit. Now I've had a lot of experiences over this last couple of weeks. Now, getting back on track here. Where I'm coming from in this particular experience I'm having, this particular experiment and the findings I'm getting from it, they coincide with different journeys that I've taken. Now, all the different journeys I've taken have led to the same outcome. If I had stayed in 1, 2, 3, 4, I would have come to the same outcome. All of my so-called connections would have become elderly. suffering from something. Now, when I turn around and look at all the different cases, they are all coming back to Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, throughout my process as a caregiver, I've gone into these levels of Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, my findings, my personal findings over 20 years of this experience, turning around and hearing that my true grandfather suffered in his 30s, 40s Alzheimer's and the stages he went through. So it has from a stage where it is a very rare disorder, disease, chemical reaction, imbalance, to where it is now. They are opening up facilities all over the place. 18 facilities in one very small location of maybe about 10,000 people. This is going to be the center point where they turn around and bring persons who are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia to. Looking through the different stages of each of these personalities that I've interacted with. Seeing what they ate, seeing what they drank, seeing the different emotional states, seeing the different ages when they hit these personal stages of decline. They are building 18 homes in one environment, in one location, for the impact. The impact being persons of a certain age going into the different stages. There's 3 stages, three major points, green, orange, or amber, red. All right? When you get to the amber and red, you need to know these different stages. This applies to all of us. Now, I'll get back into people skills in a couple of minutes, but I want to cover some of the age concern. On my list I put out today, age concern, elderly abuse, rest home care, caregivers, family members, and who and where to turn. Now, this is personal experiences on all these levels. I've seen the different levels of cancer. I've seen the different levels of what eats people away to their death. The loss of someone so emotionally close and connected, you die within within the 3 months of them passing. I've seen the areas of dementia and Alzheimer's. I've seen the areas of Parkinson's and dementia and Alzheimer's. These are areas of levels of depression. They're levels of energies coming in. What we're able to understand the different areas of communication, the different frequencies. Yeah, I was going to try very hard not to talk about frequencies, but at the end of the day, we are held down by the different frequencies being created. Once you are able to see who is creating them, the feeling states, the symptoms, the reactions of you to that frequency, to that creation of that environment. I'm not sorry in saying, because I know where I've come from, the different areas of religion that I was brought up in, the different areas of satanical abuse, ritual satanical abuse, physical, mental, sexual violations, all right? I can now say that I'm an experiencer of these different layers. Now, my position is to come here and let others be aware of the different layers. And I do it 100% truthful. This is my experience. I've got absolutely no inclination or reasoning to talk about why I would lie. There was no reason behind it. These are the experiences that I have gone through. Seeing the different energy and forces and organizations out there to keep us all in these stuck states so we don't gain that knowledge. The story of the Garden of Eden, when Eve, the female, entered in and grabbed that apple. Who says it was actually an apple? Why couldn't it have been a pomegranate? The pomegranate is older than the apple. But looking into that, I also have to look into, they say that Adam was before Eve. But before Eve, I forgot her name. Anyway, there was one before Eve, and she was the one who was not happy with the situation, the environment. Now, I looked at, and I don't see that we have lived a lot, yeah, thank you, Lilith. That's it, Lilith. Now, Lilith, life energy, life energy, light energy. All right, Lilith became, thank you for that. Now, in saying that, we don't need to look for exterior. We need to look for whom we are, the vessel and the interior. I don't believe that we die. I have experienced so many levels of death in this incarnation. I have had personal death over and over again. When I mean personal death, I'll break it down, because it comes about understanding the communication, the frequencies that are going out there. I have had where I have created life within my body. I created life. It came out, and in some cases it didn't come out. In some cases it tried to kill me from the inside. I'm still here. It hurts to know that I felt like I was a failure in these areas, and this never goes away. We can't release this. It is with us all the time. We are creators. We do whatever we can to get past that. These are areas that we need to realize that we can't be caught in the net. We can't be caught in that miscommunication. The nets that others put out there to keep us in stuck states. Because we have a lack of knowledge in these areas. Our parents don't guide us anymore. They don't teach us anymore. For me personally, my parents were the abusers. They wanted me to go down a path that wasn't created for me. That wasn't who I was. When I got into the knowing, the learning stages of knowing, okay, I had to go through these stages where once upon a time, this is how it happened, this is what it was for everybody. Then it got to a next stage, no, this is not how it is. I heard rumours. What the heck's going on? Why are these people doing this to me? I have to run away so that I can avoid those situations. But when I got caught again, I got a hiding. I got a bash. I got locked under the house. I didn't get fed. I got matchsticks put between my lips. There were all these different areas. Now, none of them too much affected me till I started to understand what it was that I was going through. Somebody else was torturing me. Okay, there was that level of understanding. Somebody says, you shouldn't have gone through that. You shouldn't have experienced that. You shouldn't feel this way. Who are they to turn around and tell me that I shouldn't feel this way? You get to a certain point. Then you start going through these different layers. You've got to peel these layers away. What have they done to me? What have they affected me? How have they affected me? How have they changed my emotions? Why am I feeling these different states of anger and denial and depression? Who's putting me in these states? When you go around and you ask for help and you find that they're all saying, oh, I didn't put you, I was there to help you. But then when you take a step out of that, because if you continue, if this is me from my findings and my experience, if you continue to keep yourself in those situations, you're only going to end up dead. You're only going to end up being predatory. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to keep you in these different mental depression states. Depression. What is depression? You want to release depression. You want to release that tension, that energy that's in you. You don't know where it's come from. You have to analyze every bloody aspect of where it's come from. It builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and then you explode. You explode through either binging, purging, going out, swearing at people, drinking, taking on addictions. This is where depression comes from. They have broken those areas that you held strong, your defenses. Then you turn around and you do the opposite. You do what they expect. You become what they expect. Every layer that they expect that you turn around and apply yourself to. If you're not looking and you're not seeing the different impacts, then they've got you. They've got you for life. There is a lot of amazing, great energies out there that have been entrapped by these different forces, these different energies taking place out there, because the people before them were also trapped. And it is an ongoing predatory pattern, routine. We have to be able, we are in an era where we need to break that descendancy. We need to be able to turn around and say, okay, this is who we are. This is what we've experienced this time. What do I want to know in the next level? You're all aware. If you are here and you are listening to these shows, then you are aware that there is so much more to you. And you know that your physicality will eventually decay, rot, and fade. All right? What is it you're going to hold on to? Now, I'm going to get back on track again. As you're the people I charge is somehow, and there is a way. Some people go out there and want to learn martial arts, and it's like, oh, is that better? All right, sorry about that. All right, your charge. What is it that you're learning? What is it you're getting? We're not going through this for no reason. There is a purpose to our being here. When you take the time to consider what do you want? Do you really want all that pomp and glory, that everything around you? Do you really want those monetary gains? What are they doing? Who are you enslaving by taking that from somebody else? I look at all these areas, and I'm looking at the energy areas. Now, with the work that I'm doing, now I've taken, my charge is an elderly man. I've known him for over 20 plus years, okay? And I've known the past history, and now where I'm at, I'm basically doing secondary caregiving. There is a person, my bestest friend in the world, my worstest enemy, because he knows so much about me, but also I about him. We push against each other's elements on a regular basis, but we're always making sure that we are working together. It's so hard. In areas that have been bombarded to us, we are each other's worst enemies because we've both had so much taken away from us. But at the same time, we know we have to work together to get through this. I personally know that I can move forward any time, and I know he is totally capable of it as well. But by having these two different totally experiences coming together, we are having more information coming into us. We are able to sit down. It's so hard to find time at this point. We've been doing this for 3 years. And it is amazing to be able to say that I've been doing this and I've learned so much on this journey, and to be able to sit down and listen to the levels of learning from this other creature, this other being. Now, in doing so, my charge that I take care of is going through Alzheimer's and dementia. Dementia is the breakdown of the physicality. The Alzheimer's is the loss of memory. So when you're putting them both together, the loss of memory and the motor skills, the cognitive and the motive vessel. They're starting to no longer work in coalition to each other. Through these stages you get, in the early stages now, I've been doing this, I've seen him when he first started. I was led into the areas of, I should say, of knowing some of the stuff from his early days that other members are not aware of. Being put into positions where people have been able to talk to me straight up and say things that they didn't, they haven't shared with other people. So I've gotten to see another level of the picture. I know how my physical and mental reactions are when they're actual family members, because I'm only of blood. The blood members come in, and this is where the conflict of interest starts to take place. These personalities are seeing and experiencing their levels from their perspective, but because they are on the outside, they're not living within the actual experience itself. They're only having hearsays and reports and feeling it through other family members, through the different depressional states, the mental states, the capacities, the wellness of that being going through. Now, the person in question I'm talking about has lived as a full-on primary, being the first person there within that location for 3 years. Being able to grow up with that person and watch that person's life unfold. Going through the different experiences they've gone. I feel this is a privilege to be going through this, to be sharing this, to have the experiences that I've gained from an outside perspective. Now where we're at, this person has gone through these different stages of abilities, different stages of mental capacity. When you can see it right in front of you breaking down. Now I've had plus 20 years experience in this. I was doing this before I even went into this family. I was doing this when I was 16 years old. These were the areas and locations and directions that I had been on, with all these other family interests, with all these different other units, outside influences. It all comes back to the same thing. If I was to tell you their names, you could turn around and look them up, and they all have a different level form of dementia of already passed on. These different family members that I've had to deal with, I can actually go back, to my first case, which was a young son came to look after his grandfather because nobody else wanted to take responsibility. His grandfather was 97 years old. He lived in the house right at the end of my driveway. This guy came in, he did everything he possibly could. Every day he was asking me questions. Now he was like 27 or something, and I'm like 18, 19. I don't have a clue. I'm in my first real relationship. I have no idea that this is the same area that it's going to go in. Now in doing this I'm helping. I'm making meals on the sly. My first husband did not know that I was making meals and lunches and everything and helping this person take care of his grandfather, because he didn't understand. He didn't know what was going on. But at the same time, he was in the location. He was the only one in that location. And he had this guilt, blame, shame game going on. He felt that everybody was going to put their rubbish or their ruddy on them to turn around and say, look, you were there. Why didn't you do something? Where were you all those years ago? Yet I'm older than you. Where were you? So why are they putting the guilt onto you? You don't understand this. This is communication. This is spellcasting. Stuff that you will have to break at a later stage. So you start applying yourself. You're going out there. You're doing this stuff. And then you have your own major bloody impact. For him, what happened was he went there. He stayed there. He fed him. He dressed him. He showered him. He was crying all the time. His health went down. He was doing the best he could under the circumstances. He was in a state of physical, mental depression. There was no aid. There was no areas that he could go to, governmental-wise or any other organisations that would support him. He had nothing. Then one day he heard a noise. He left it because he was so burnt out. He was so tired and so exhausted. He heard a noise. He left it. When he got up in the morning, his 97-year-old grandfather had passed on. He had fallen out of bed trying to reach for a glass of water, and he had died of hypothermia on the floor next to his bed with a broken glass. The trauma that my friend went through of feeling guilty for years and years. This is what I deem as different forms of post-traumatic stress disorder. How do they come about? They come about by different ways of guilt, blame, shame, trauma. What is trauma? Break it down. It is an emotional reaction. It is a response, a physical and mental response that you have. Now, you might go through your whole life either being really, really good, but being really, really angry mentally, inside your head. I'm concerned, I'm actually concerned about where I might end up if I end up with dementia, as my true grandfather had it. Everybody around me is getting it. It is up there on them. They are building 18 homes, secure homes. This is where if you have dementia, you step out of your room, the buzzer goes off on the floor. You are in lockdown. You don't know what you're being given. You don't know when you crap yourself. You don't know when you lose your physicality. You are no longer in conscious being. You are now in emotional. You are now in the breakdown of the physical. To me, the experiences I'm seeing is you're getting ready to leave your vessel. You're leaving behind, you're disconnecting to all the information. Now, through the generations, they've done so many different forms of chemical experiments upon us. We didn't see it till about 20 years ago. We started seeing the increase of the changes within our water, the airwaves. You go back to the 70s, they were already doing chemtrail spraying. You go back further, they were already doing chemical testing on whatever reasoning and excuses they needed to gather you up, to herd you up, put you in these environments. They've done genocide. They have controlled us as farm beings. I wanted to look in further. Why are they doing us to this? It takes me to another dimension. When we have younger and younger generations coming in, they've had these experiences, they've held on to the information, they've passed on, they've come back at an earlier stage with this information. They can prove who their killer was in a past lifetime. The evidence, the information is out there. We've all having experiences because, going through the early stages of being able to have these different forms of abilities but not having the labels, being able to share the information with anybody out there, because it was a threat over your life that if you were different, you would get taken away from what you call security, even if that security was abusive. That was all you knew. That was the area that was your security. That's all you knew. That was your programming. We need to take into consideration all those different levels. If you are now an adult, you have gotten through those areas of abuse. You now need to start looking at these experiences. You can easily go, there are stages we go through. We go through anger, we go through denial, we go through different levels of deeper anger. We then go through the pity stage. We then go through the blame, shame, embarrassment game. We go through the fight and flight stages because we're not comprehending the information that's coming into us. We don't have the translators in place. We haven't learnt the ABC of that information. But over time, that information is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. But you're having these other experiences. Now, it's like, it is truly like going through some form of school. Now, I've heard people out there talking about the different layers of schools and the different layers of education. But unless they break down what they're actually saying to you, how the heck are you actually going to know what they're actually saying to you? And on the same token, If you are hearing these words, it's because you have experienced the journeys. You are a warrior. You know the different adventures. You know the different toxicities out there. We go through these stages where we start slowing ourselves down. We need to take a break. But every single area that we're working in, there are new knowledges coming in. Where we're at now, we're going through all these different stages of bombardment, the frequencies. This is warfare. We are in war, people. This is what we're going through. We know where it is coming from. All our government agencies around us, what have they truly done that has enhanced your life, your abilities, your knowledge, who you truly are? Or what is it that they have taken away from you? What are the stuck states that you've been put into? What do you surround yourself with? Are you into the monetary gain, the material objects? What would happen if you lost everything tomorrow? Tonight you get into bed, and next day it's all gone. You're still in your bed. There's nothing left around you. Everything that you held dear is gone. All right? Even the smallest emotion, it's gone. The breath, the life is taken out of you. All those connections have been released. Who do you become? Do you stay in that bed? Do you get out? Do you investigate your surroundings? Do you look for these other parties, even though you know it's all barren? Do you start protecting yourself? Do you start putting together the basic shelter needs? You go back into the primal. You know who you are. Whatever vessel that you incarnate into, right here we've had all these different levels of animal, insect, plant, ether. We've had all these different incarnations as this conscious energy, this conscious ability. We can transmute ourselves. We can transform. We hear all these different stories about people transforming into the werewolf. We carry our different forms of DNA imprint information. The work that you do on the now and in the past. For where I'm at right now, I'm also clearing out any of the stuff that I created in the past, because I know that I'm still connected to it in the now. By having that remind me that if I go down this path, I'm going to be recreating that story, that scenario on a different age, a different level. So am I going to go there and I'm going to deal with it? So when I go into that, I know that I'm in that. I can deal with that at a faster rate. I can say no to that. When you have Alzheimer's and dementia, you lose everything. You go through these breakdown stages. As we get older, we know that our vitamins and minerals, we have a deficiency. Our organs start breaking down. So we also know we can't handle the foods that we used to eat. So we need to up those materials that we needed in that time frame, vitamin, mineral-wise, to keep our skin healthy, to keep it fed. It needs more than what it's been getting. We've been starving it, okay? The oxygen is changing, so you increase the plants around your environment, your sleeping environment, your living environment. So you're going back into the Garden of Eden, basically, where all those plants, the healing knowledge. Even if Eve hadn't taken it from the apple tree, if she'd taken it from any of the other trees, she would have also been taking the knowledge. She would have also gone through the same journey. Many trees come from the ground. Many trees produce seeds. Many trees produce stones. They're all coming from the same place at the end of the day. All the stuff that we look at in psychology, because I also work in psychology, different levels of it, I've had to have multiple personality syndrome to be able to understand all the different levels, why these personalities came into place in the first place. I love a good ballroom dance. I love it. With all the great the fanfare, the costume, the masks and everything. At the end of the day, they are masks, they are costumes. It is somebody else's dance. I don't need to put myself in there. I can take that moment and have it as a rest. But as long as I realise I don't get trapped within that environment. With the age-concerned environment that I'm seeing, we're all going to get to that stage where we need to start taking care of our vessels and our mind if we want to continue the journeys that we're on. Now, we are very adaptable beings, adaptable creatures on all these different multi-levels that are coming in. So we need to be able to go, okay, we need to improve here and here. At the same time, as much as you improve yourself, if it is already ongoing, in some cases, you can only work towards finding a cure, doing the best that you can to find a cure, noting all the changes and all the difference, your skin texture, how tight is it. As a phlebotomist, taking people's bloods, hard to take small children's blood and the elderly, because the skin becomes extra fragile, okay? One cut will take a lot longer to heal. And if you don't keep on to that healing of it, it then becomes pustulous, which means little pustules break out, little areas of infection. And if you don't get to, if you get to that stage, the wound, the skin irritation is only going to get bigger and you get sicker. They start forcing different forms of antibiotics on you. It is an evil circle that takes place. I don't want to say evil because evil back to front is live. Okay, so live. So when we work at knowing who we are, these are all different aspects of knowing who we are. What are the chemicals that you are taking in your past as a child to what you're taking in now? What are the chemical reactions you've had? Have your teeth rotted? Are you asthmatic? Do you have, skin irritations, eczema, dermatitis? Do you have dandruff? All of these are reactions. When you can read and understand why you're having this reaction, it's a chemical reaction, then you can turn around and feed yourself so that you are no longer having that chemical reaction. So you can make it go, further and longer. How long do you want to live in this life experiencing what you're experiencing, knowing all the new stuff that's coming in? We know that they have different forms of vessels out there. If we are inhabiting this human vessel, then we are going to be experiencing another vessel at another stage. If you choose to give up when you go to the next stage, you choose to give up. Now, with the dementia that I'm seeing on another level, on a multidimensional level, I'm seeing that you're having your mind wiped. You're forgetting your connections. Your connections are gone. They disconnect you. You are being disconnected before you pass on to that next stage. So when you go to that next stage, you're no longer just that light. Okay, you're also that blanked out light. You're that clean light. They're going to go and put somewhere else. You've got so much more work that you're going to have to do to turn around and get back to the stages that you were here in this 3D. I'm seeing the holding back. I'm seeing the new vessels that they're going to unfold on us. I want to get into some of the stuff that's going on. Now, taking this gentleman into respite care for 3 nights. Each night, basically, I took him down at 9 o'clock in the morning. He was there in what is known as day stay or day care for the elderly, where they interact in different actions and communicate with other elderly of their own age. Interaction is important. You cannot isolate yourself constantly. People need other people around them. If you don't have other people around them, you'll spend hours sitting on the end of your bed with your hands on your head, your hands on the knees, contemplating the experiences that you've had. None of them will sit right. They're all over the show. Everything is jibber jabber. It's all mixed up. You can't comprehend. The more you spend sitting there thinking about all of the stuff, the less you are able to do. Because once somebody gets your attention or something gets your attention, there are other physicalities that start to break down. You can't operate your legs very well. You have to allow yourself to stand there and let that blood flow. You have to get your balance. You know, the density is changing. Your physical density is changing within this 3D change that we're having. I'm seeing a huge impact on our elderly. I'm seeing it in young people. You know, we've gone through the areas where they've manipulated the different frequencies and we've had brain fog. You know, it's not happened to just one or two people where you sit down and you do whatever you do, you get into a different state of mind, you go, oh, I forgot that. Why did I forget that? Brain fart. Why did that go? I was focused on this and it just popped out of my head. Where did that go? Now, there are different levels to that. Okay, is it the frequency coming in disrupting your frequency? Are you allowed to share that knowledge that you're about to share, or that information you're about to get in has been blocked because you can't remember it? When I've sat there with my gent, he's turned around, he says to me, I'm trying to locate in my head why I can't remember. First of all, he gets his finger and he points to his third eye. He said it starts here, and then he moves it to the top of his hairline, and he says, and then it seems to move here. And then I said, where'd it go then? And he goes, he moves to just above the frontal. Okay, and for me, those three areas, they line up. They line up. It's going straight to the centre where we hold our information, where we. Now, why did he turn around and say that to me? You know, with all the things that were going on, he's sitting there and just out of the blue he says that. Now, this is coming from a person who made me laugh the other day. Now, I'm very PC, I'm very etiquette, I'm diplomatic as much as I possibly can be. But when you're going through these different stages with these people, you tend to see the funny side of it too. If you don't, you go crazy. You really do. You go through these different stages of, oh, what can I do to help this? But oh my God, it's ongoing. I can't keep up with this. Why is he doing that now? You know, how did that happen? You know, you left them in a certain state and then you come back and you find something totally different. And it's like, when did they do that? You know, why did they do that? So this person turned around. He ended up having the notion, the feeling state, the memory weren't working together, okay? The motive skills, the brain weren't working together. But he knew that he needed to go to the bathroom, the toilet. And then I got an emergency call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning saying, I need your help. I can't, he's had an accident. I can't get him off the loo. So I go over there and I ask him, you know, doors wide open. There's no more any of that embarrassment. You know, he's familiar with me. He's familiar with the routines I have, how I can support. I make sure there is a lot of dignity involved in the actions I do. I'm very cautious of the words. I'm cautious of every action because of the different areas. It comes down to the dignity that you want to provide for somebody else, the dignity that you hold within yourself. Now, I know this is going outside of the dignity by sharing this information, but you have to hear where it comes from. You know, when they start reverting back, they go back through different stages. Now, if you have many photos and stuff around them, that does help. Now, I've had to look for different areas. We've put up night lights so he can find his way. We've put up signs directing him to the bathroom. We've put a night light in his room. We keep everything going and flowing so he can, look for the danger zones. You know, when you wake up in the dark and you can't see properly, you don't know where you're going, you don't even know where you're at. This is when accidents start happening. You don't know your environment. So by having it lit up in these different areas, having these different sounds, like we have a mirror, it's almost a portrait, and it's got a ripple effect like a waterfall. I've actually questioned whether to have it because it's a waterfall which, you know, instigates the mind to go and pee. or go and urinate. But when you turn the sound effects off, just the lighting, it lights up the entire area. I have the curtain in his room up a fraction so that when he's up at the early hours of the morning, I can show him that it is night time. He can't be singing to the volume that he was singing. He can't be yelling out and making those disturbances. So I'm now seeing, I'm reverting back to when you have a child, there's certain areas that you have to undergo. You have to make sure you put them in a passive state, a calmful state. You feed them, you change them, you make sure they're warm. You do all the same stages for people when they get into the stage of dementia. You have to start dressing them, you shower them, you have to wash areas that you never expected to ever go, right? You see things you never expected to see. But in doing that, you get to know another person's personality. You get to see what they're actually physically and mentally capable. You get to see how the mental state breaks down. There are still areas at this point in my charge that I have. Charge to me is the person I'm taking care of. It's an energy source. It's what I'm putting out there energy-wise and what they're giving me back as an energy-wise. It's a charge. It's an energy source. So in doing this, I'm experiencing and sharing this journey with this person. Now, I'm going to do my best not to put them in any harmful state or any ill will. I wouldn't do that. I'm not interested in the background history as, in the younger days as a young man and whatever he went through, because nobody has chosen to share that information with me. The information that I do have is only one source. I can see the other areas of the psychological fallout that has taken place and the disconnection within the psychological states, okay? The interaction, the communication levels. So I get to experience that. Now this is applied to all the different areas that I operate and I work in, the different areas that I'm getting the information. I collect data, I collect information, but it's an energy source. It's to better myself. How can I take that energy in and turn it into something better and then go back and give it back to them? Tell them what it was that I experienced with that information without making them feel that that's where I got it from in the first place. I'm sharing so many different areas of this particular person's life, from showering, wiping his bottom. You do not expect yourself to be put into a position where you are wiping the crap off somebody else's butt. You don't expect yourself to be put into the position of washing their physicality, getting them physical in and out of the bath, the areas that you go, the way you have to take the responsibility of making sure their entire skin is dry, because if you leave it wet, bed sores and just other infections will take place. Knowing the different levels that we are going to reach, the levels where I'm at right now and what I need to put in place, the food groups that I now need to introduce to myself. There was a time there where I could have had the opportunity to change this person's eating habits. But as there was so much other interference, and I'm the outside party here, so I could only do so much. I can only say too much. I don't want to offend too many people. They've shown me their sides, their personality, their cowardness, the lack of information, the disconnection that they have. Now, whatever reasons they have it, I have my own, for my own connections to the pedophiles that I was connected to, right? I know why I disconnect. I know why I choose not to have them in my life or anybody around me. I know how far I will take this if I need to take it. If I ever see them, I will have to be restrained. I am aware of these different areas because I now am aware of what my free will is. I know that ego no longer plays a role in my actions. I don't need that anymore. I can see how it kept me alive at a certain time. I saw how it got me through different stages. Now I'm going into elderly care. I'm going into a rest home that say they are going to take on the care responsibility, right? The whole works of it, the power of attorney. They take over the power of attorney. You sign over the power of attorney, to a rest home. They take responsibility for the person that you are putting in there. Any funds that they have are now become responsibility of that care home. Everything that was happening to that person is now taken away and put into the hands of a caregiver. When you start seeing that they are not following the rules and regulations and code of ethics that they state that they are, you see the food that they are dishing up. You wouldn't serve that to a pig, an animal, anything out there. You would just get rid of it. You would not feed someone who is paying nearly $900 a week. All right. When I looked into the care recently, it goes up to $168 a day, and that's subsidized by the government. When the government intervenes and they take some form of subsidy, they're taking it from our so-called funds, if you even believe in that. It's our energy storage. It's our energy funds. They've been able to transmute that into a form of currency. What they think that you are worth, how much they will allow you to have, how much energy they will allow you to have from your own energy resource. You start breaking it down and you see that eventually you have left everything to the government, to whoever runs that government. You have allowed them to take control of your vessel, your DNA, the memories, and everything that is gathered within your bone structures when they bury you. You are buried with your name in capitals. You are a corporation. You have already given and signed away your corporation. You gave it back to the government by allowing yourself to go into these homes. They turn around and say, now don't take me wrong on this, okay? I am not saying go out and do this. I'm saying look at the bigger picture of the control factor. They turn around and tell you, both in religion and the government agencies, that suicide is wrong. Don't do it. Who's the third party here? Who's the secondary party here? Why are they telling you not to do it? Why is there such a big deal over it? Why are they creating the thing called the demise pill, Agenda 21? Why are they creating that? Why are the 20 Summit, the UN meetings, different country meetings, turning around and speaking about euthanasia, allowing these pills into the country, giving you a certain belief system that, no, don't worry, it's only set for certain elements. How do you know that the person in an elderly home who has signed away everything because they need somebody to trust for them, to care for them, because you have had all the other agencies around you telling you there is nothing available for you to maintain the wellness of this person that you are connected to, that you choose to care for, my charge, right? Why they turn around and tell you, we want them to stay in your home as long as possible. We'll do what we can to help you. There are agencies out there. They will give you a certain amount of help. They will allow you to have a caregiver come in, wash your charge, care for your charge, feed them, stay overnight, make their beds, maintain the physicality, caregivers, registered nurses. There are a lot more registered nurses leaving hospital employment because of the salary and going into these rest homes because of the salary, because they're able to take these opportunities not to work for the system. Well, they're working for the system, but they're having more control over their environment and what they're able to do. All right? All they got to do at the end of the day is sign their name at the end on a piece of paper to say that they've done the job. Meanwhile, we're looking at the impacts on and the physicalities on these people that are being cared for. In concern to where I'm coming from, my elderly charge was recently accused. There's allegations of sexual content. Now, in the years that I have worked in close contact with this person, I have never once experienced not even a scratch, not even a fiddle, not even an incarnation, not now even the ability to be able to do what was alleged against him. In further investigation, now this is the way it unfolded. I take him down at 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock to interact with other people his age in different activities. Lunch, morning tea and afternoon tea are supplied. Caregivers are on call to take him to the bathroom if need be. Through contract and signature, any form of incident is to be notified to myself or another family member to be able to pick them up, remove them, bring extra clothing, bring medication, go to the hospital, all of those different areas. In doing so one evening, from 9 till 4, and then in the evening from 4 till the next morning, respite care, is where the government will pay for the elderly to be taken care of up to 14 hours a year. In further investigation, this is what they tell you, 14 hours a year. In further investigation, I found that you can get a lot more care than that. You can continue depending on the different levels of care and support that are needed. Making sure that the facility that the person is going into is a secure facility. If an agency or a facility turns around and tells you, yes, they're capable of doing it, it doesn't mean that they're capable of doing it. If you let them, part of the ethics, code of ethics and policies are that you write down as much of information so that you have given what you need for another person to provide the same and adequate care that you have been giving. When you turn around and see that the communication barriers do not fit the levels of information, then you have to question what is actually going on in these facilities. In one of these occasions, on the third night, he had an incident. He apparently had 3 incidents. I did not and was not notified until the next afternoon at 4 o'clock when I went to pick him up to bring him home. He was accused of a sexual misdemeanor or sexual violation, however you want to see it. Now, this was done at the same time by 2 care workers, 2 female care workers, when putting down on the form only male caretakers to be responsible for his care and well-being. I.e., if it's a male nurse will take him to the bathroom. If it's a female nurse will take her to the bathroom. That's one of my standards of caregiving. I have watched people who have got, females and males both, go through a lifetime of different events and choose. You do not know what they have gone through. You cannot turn around and say, I'm going to tell you to have a shower, a male to a female. That is inappropriate. That is disgusting in my eyes. When you turn around and put 2 females on a male, you are creating confusion. You do, and I'm seeing this everywhere. On further investigation, breaking this down. That evening, just after I had found out, I went to locate my charge. Finding a male nurse had escorted him to the bathroom. When exiting the bathroom, my charge turned around and wanted to say goodbye to a particular caregiver. The male nurse called her by name, which I'm not going to disclose at the moment, and she turns around and gives him a hug in response. The care home turns around and says because of the allegations laid against him, he no longer has the right, and we cannot take him in nighttime care. But he's most welcome to come to daytime care. Now, when you read these statements that have, the incident reports that have taken place, you see the magnitude of the content. Now, to that degree, coming from my background and all the different sexual violations and so on, and working in the rest homes, you see that, 1, those females should not have been in that facility. 2, they do not have the educational skills background to turn around and determine the cause of incident being dementia. 3, knowing that one of the claimants turns around and comes up and gives them a hug. 4, the facility turn around and say he cannot stay at night, but he is most welcome during the day. 5, comes bullying, harassment by other staff, being able to see it. Now, you may not think that this stuff goes on in these environments. Moving right along, further investigating. But it turns out that the manager of this environment is an ex-teacher, ex-principal, who has stood down and been struck down, found guilty on 3 occasions of child pornography on his computer at school. Tried to lie and get out of it. So his way of getting out of it was, I will not work in the education system any longer. He moves on. He develops 10 years later. He's now working in an aged care facility with different people working in this facility. The majority of homes now in this country are immigrants from India or Asia. Being able to see working in other environments. When I worked for PRN, it was a recruitment agency where we would put registered nurses and caregivers, send them out to facilities that didn't have enough staff to take care of the elderly. We also trained in different areas of dementia and Alzheimer's. They also worked within the areas of phlebotomy. This is how I was able to work in all of these areas at the same time. So I got to learn the different stages, different categories, different forms of areas of concern, literally of concern. Food, mental, physical well-being. The different predators that came in. And in some of now I'm not saying at this stage this is what is happening. There is further investigation going on into this. In this location you have an RN or the duty manager, the night staff nurse, the hierarchy that will sign off on this. He comes from India, has a certain name, certain age group. Then you look at the people applying the allegations, filling out the incident form. You look at the different areas of the incident form. Now, I've worked in this area. I know what is critical and what is not critical in your reporting skills. And when you leave out certain areas, they tend to jump off the page, reading something is not correct here. So in doing that, that triggered a different breakdown of investigation into the different stages of allegations that I've read. Taking a step further, I find out that the manager is basically, in my eyes, a pedophile. He has has an ongoing affection for child porn or whatever porn that is out there. And it is under blue-collar crime. He is allowed to be in this facility to do so. Now, while he is out in transit, going through these allegations, these other actions are taking place within his facility. Were they taking place within the facility prior? Now, as I said, I've gone into investigator mode. So I know personalities down within that environment, both patient and caregiver. And I am not going to stand back. I am going to investigate this. I have also looked into the records of this retirement village, where they have adverse reporting events, breaking adverse reporting events, false reporting, false information. They have been accused of it. When you go and look into an environment for your care, somebody that you want to put into care, you really have so many other areas that you need to take a look at. You can't just go, okay, I'm burnt out, I need to do this, la la la. You go through the stages. You have to become aware there is so much more to who we are and what we are. So right now I'm looking into different levels of elder abuse. What does it look like? Okay, elder abuse and neglect is a single or repeated act. The lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of any form of trust, cause harm or distress to an elder person. Now this is also free will abuse. That is, you take away the elder and so you put in the free will. This is where it comes down to. This is coming down to the trickle effect. This affects all of us. If you're choosing to have a long life, you do not know all the different areas that are coming in against us. The areas that we're going to need support in. You already have the telltale signs showing themselves. You also have the different areas where you can improve yourself to delay these areas. Going back to it. This definition of elder abuse was adopted from the WHO in Toronto Declaration on the Global Prevention of Elder Abuse in 2002. Now, there hasn't been too much information put out there in these different communities, but now as it's starting to show itself, it can no longer be ignored. There are more and more people suffering from these different ailments that put us into different forms of physical and mental stuck state. We have to take care and responsibility and know what these abuse areas look like so that we can identify perpetrators and not become accidentally a perpetrator ourselves. All right? You have to look at how you wish to be treated by others out there. How are you willing to treat others now out there? What are your communication levels? What are your psychological, barriers, your stuck states? Because these are all going to play roles as we go along through our journey. Now, on the physical abuse of it, physical causing mental anguish, stress and fear, ridicule or threats, harassment, humiliation and bullying, preventing choice and decision making, withholding any form of affection and general negative actions. Now, if you need to have those broken down, the ridicule and threats and the bullying and humiliation, okay, these are huge stages. When you have been independent most of your life, or even you're in a relationship or whatever, you're independent. This is you. This is your vessel. These are your experiences. You know what you like to eat. You know what you like to drink. You know how far you can push your limits and how far you can't. So in doing this, you need to go, okay, I know what mental stuff affects me, what my triggers are, and why they're affecting me. You get to a stage where you're no longer capable of maintaining your physical or mental well-being, and somebody comes in and calls you a name. It's like when you're back in a younger age and somebody is calling you these names. They're bringing you down. They're putting you down. They don't want you. They're keeping you in stuck states. This works into the elder. At some stages, I've been in situations where I've watched my charge sitting there. Everybody else is having a conversation about his well-being and stuff, and not taking into consideration he can hear and understand every word that's going on. We have to take into consideration this other person, the feeling states they go through, the bombardment, the damages. They sit there for hours trying to comprehend why they were looked at in those ways. This is who we are. This is the experiences we've already had. Why are we now putting it out there onto others? We're looking at the younger generation, how they've gotten away with so much, how they don't have the same mindsets. They are our future abusers. If we don't start putting into place now and speaking out and showing them what is going on, how our physicalities change, the lack of information, the lack of communication, the lack of interaction, so they look at us and go, oh no, we can't go there, we can't look at that, we're focused over here. They've taken us from our fire pit people. They've taken us from our lands. They've put us into these concrete pens, these environments, these imprisonments, making us believe that we have freeness to wander around and interact and stuff. But in actual fact, they have segregated us. They have segregated us through the different genders, the different labels, the different, there's many species of us. Why do we have to fight between the different species, the different countries that we come from? It doesn't matter the skin you're in. It's where you're coming from. It's these experiences. We can share this information. We can look after each other. In the older days, I was told you give respect to your elders. Now, going through the experiences, I learned that the elders they're no different to who I am. I will give respect as long as respect is also given. This is where I'm at now. If I go through a journey with you and you show me no respect, don't expect me to give you any respect back in turn. This is work, this is energy, this is knowledge, this is where I've come from. I hold myself, in an honourable state, and it has got me into some really dangerous states. I've lost so much because of it. When I say I've lost so much, these are just different experiences that have been taken away from me, that I would have loved to have had. But by being here, I've also had and been able to share these different areas of experiences. Getting back on track. Now, these different forms of abuse come in. Ask the person, what is it that you would like to do? Is there something that you would like to eat for dinner? Would you like to have a bath instead of always having a shower? Would you like to go to a location? Knowing the different states that they can get into, but you're supporting them. You're supporting their journey, their wellness, their experience. You don't want anybody to go through a bad experience. It's really hard to sit there and watch them contemplating their life journey and everything that they have lost. There is no, at this point in time, my charge is still going through the early stages of a grieving process. He just lost a partner of X amount of years, all these different experiences. It has its detrimental areas. You can see the different changes. You can see the lack of interaction. Myself, I make sure that I'm trying to make him do stuff all the time. And up until just recently, he was still mowing the lawn and felt fantastic. Now he's down to just washing 1 or 2 dishes at a time. I can't allow him to wash in the sink the way he used to because of his other personal hygienes that are changing. Items don't go in the right locations. That's not too much of a problem for me because I can find that. But by showing me that, he no longer has the ability to monitor his safety zone, be able to switch power off and on, use the oven. He can't do that. Even finding his way to the bathroom or the toilet is no longer a full-on action. Being caught short and then not wanting to act because he's embarrassed. It's a matter of the words you use, your tonality you use, how you support this person. You bring it out there. You don't embarrass them in any way. You let them know that we're all the same. We all have accidents. We're all going through this. We all have weak moments. We all have strong moments. We don't like our food sometimes. With dementia and Alzheimer's, you get to a point where you can't swallow properly. You can't eat properly. You don't know whether you're hungry or whether you've just eaten too much. You don't know whether it's hot or whether it's cold. You feel aches and pains over your body, which are no longer actual aches and pains, but there are stages you go through, and they're regular patterns. They start rubbing their fingers. When I see the elderly rubbing their fingers the way that I do, then I know they're at a certain stage. I can also see other factors that come in. Now, this charge that I'm working is not the only charge who has Alzheimer's I'm working with. I have two elderly female and another elderly male. One of the elderly female she also has Parkinson's. She knows she's going through this stage. She's at that stage where she knows this is going on. She's scared because she has no support network. Her motor skills are starting to break down. She's still functioning to the point where she can drive a car, but that's going to be limited. She can still go take herself to the supermarket and go and get a coffee, but that's starting to limit. When you have a conversation with her, excuse me, she will repeat the same conversation because she has already forgotten that she has already communicated this information. After about the 20th time, it starts going, okay, well, I can predict what the next thing is that's coming. But she means well. She's having that interaction. She's having that communication. At some stages where my first charge that I'm talking about, the one that's further on, being able to have the conversations and just listening to them. When you start asking them a question and they start having to find different words, they don't understand the words they're putting together, and it starts making absolutely no comprehensible sense. You listen to the one or two words that jump off the page and then you can finish the sentence. That depends on the amount of work that you're doing with them. Now, when I go into these rest homes and I'm looking for a place for assessment for permanent care, because it's now at the stage where the house has to be modified for me to continually support the person that's there. It's no longer viable to be able to have to lift these legs in and out of a shower because it can't manage itself even standing in a shower. There's elements to these areas. I mean, we have a shower, a bath stool that sits in the bath. If I had to give him a bath, I would literally have to have two people to help, one, myself and another person, to help me lift this person in and out of the bath. This is the stage it's gotten to. You've got to take into consideration, people forget about different parts of their body and they don't realise that these can actually cause further injury and illness to you. As my charge is in a state at the moment, when I started taking the kind of care and support that I'm putting in, I got to see, because this is the showering stage, you don't know what's going on underneath the shirts. You don't know the bruises and the locations of irritations going on the body under the material. When you start washing them, you start seeing that just a very tiny knock on their skin will create a bruise. The bruise will last, weeks, and it's like you can't massage the skin texture the way that you used to be able to because the epidermis levels have broken down. They haven't been fed the foods that they need. And because it's gotten to such a state of deterioration, there's a lot of work that would have to be involved in getting them back to a comfortable stage. At this point in time, has gone to the stage where I no longer can do that caregiving for that person on those levels. And it is really sad, it's heartbreaking. It makes me feel like I have, in some areas, failed my charge. But in saying that, I've also got to experience the different levels and journeys so that my other charges, I can take a better care of, standard of where the levels that they're at. So, and because I have both male and female, it comes down to your morals, what you're prepared to put out there, what you're prepared to give, how you're prepared to take care of them. And knowing that all our actions that we take in our day-to-day lives we have to take consideration for their lives, how they've lived their lives. If I take my charge out now and I say it's going to cost this amount, he'll go, no way, he knows to a certain limit that's a criminal price, because he goes back to his time when he was able to function and pay a certain price. There has been that gap where that is now no longer comprehensible to him. So you get to a stage where you have to take this responsibility to turn around and make sure you do that honestly for that person. You're not going to rip them off. You're going to get them the best. It's as if you've got to do it for yourself. You're doing it for somebody else. And if you choose not to do that, there are all these new rules and regulations coming into our environment to turn around and say, if you're not doing it correctly, we're going to take over. We're going to take over and take them into our control. Look at our system and our societies. They're now taking our children away from us at younger and younger ages and having the power to turn around and inject them and turn them into bloody zombies. When are we going to take responsibility for our people around us? If we can't take responsibility for ourselves, and you can't reach out there and ask for somebody else, who's going to take care of you? Now is the time to put in place and start looking at the areas where the system is taking it further. Now, I had to laugh not long ago when a so-called person, no names, turned around and said they were going to leave the radio show and do all this other stuff, opening up a retirement village. Now, I laughed when I heard it. Now, looking into it even further because of the areas that oh my God, this is just another form of abuse, NLP programming, control factors. These are where I'm finding predatory actions and systems all around us. We look into the physiological abuse, the anguish and all the behavioural, the measurement of the fear, the stresses, the stuck states that these people are trying to analyse and work through. This is all of us. We're all doing this all the time. It gets harder as we get older because the controls out there get stronger. Our abilities start to decrease. We can't do what we used to do. We need to ask help. But because of our programming, we are too stubborn to ask for help until it's too late. We are unaware at the beginning. We need to go through these different journeys and have people point out to us that what we were unaware of is actually damaging our journey, is damaging, though we are becoming perpetrators ourselves because we are unaware of what it was that we're mentally doing, mentally interacting, our behavioural systems. When it comes to this, we've got the financial abuse, illegal or improper use of money, property and assets. You look at a caregiver, you look at these different areas now, retirement villages, they take control, power of attorney, unauthorised taking of money or possessions. I've had a person come in on one occasion to take care and shower my charge and leave and never come back because we found they took the smallest of item. It didn't mean very much. It wasn't even sentimental. The fact that they took it from their household on their very first visit showed that if they kept their employment, they were able to go further into being allowed in the home. You're allowing the vampire into your home. You're allowing them to take what is not theirs to take. All right. You're giving them the ability to look further into the family, see what they can take. It's always about, when we get into a relationship or a friendship, it's an energy exchange, it's an information exchange, it's about the experience change. What are we willing to exchange with each other and go through on this journey? So it's the same as when you get into any form of contract. You must, I've got other cases where I'm working in advocacy for. You have to be able to break down the information, the language, the spell casting of what's being put in front of you. When it comes to the fight and flight, when you get a bit of information and you don't understand it and you feel like it's holding you back, you've got to start breaking it down. Why are you having these reactions? Why are you having this chemical response? What is it that is provoking you to this point of this reaction? You know, when you start going, okay, well, I don't want to be that person. I can see where that's coming from now. And this is a lot of work. You can't just go out there and go to a counselor or psychologist or doctor and say, well, this is what's happening to me, this is what I need, because they're going to dish you out their system. They're going to dish you out, they're going to put you on that conveyor belt and give you what they're hearing that you need to keep you in those stuck states, to calm you down, to give you the different masking medications. They don't take away the symptoms. They don't take away the reason why you're going through that in the first place. In some cases through the psychological stage, when they're questioning you on the events that took place, they're reopening wounds, reopening those areas that you haven't dealt with and keep reacting with. But they don't give you the tools to actually put this information in the right place. Instead, you go away and you fester. You have these trigger points that start reacting around you because they've been so closed away for such a long time. You know, there is a certain wellness that we need to start understanding of ourselves. Getting back onto track, the forms of different abuse that come into this. Like I said, this applies to all of us. This is not just our age, just as we age through this. These are all the different areas that we go through right now. We've got, where did it go? Okay, illegal or improper use of money, property or assets. We've got unauthorized taking of monies and possessions. Possessions are a lot of different areas. Misuse of power of attorney. Attorney. What is an attorney? Why do we have these people that we turn around and put down on the paperwork as saying, yes, they'll do this job and this job and this job, and they're never to be seen anywhere? They don't know who you are. They don't really take any responsibility. They let you do all the work, and then they go and sign off, allowing everything to be taken away from you. Why do we allow that? What is it? Why do we feel the need to give our abilities, our power, our trust to others out there when they've already proven that they can't do the job? And it's mind-boggling. It's just continual. Anyway, the failure to pay bills, loans, the use of home and utilities without contributing any form of costs. If you have one caregiver who's living there, primary caregiver who's living there 24/7, that's totally understandable. But when you have somebody that is not, comes in as a secondary, they need to take care of their own needs. To a certain point, there needs to be something put in place saying, this is what I will give you energy-wise for doing this job, this position. The time that you get and the time you become unhappy with that, then come back to me. Don't turn around and violate the trust. It's not worth it. You're harming yourself, you're harming others out there. There's a different aspects of our morals. We know what we want to be. We know we want to be the best that we can be. We have to break down the different barriers. Now we also have to look into the scams that are going out there, the scams that rely on establishing a relationship with an older person. And we see this all the time. We see a lot of caregivers going in, male and female scammers going in there, exploiting the needs of these other people emotionally, physically, and getting into just different forms of sexual relationships to the point where they can get that person to gift or pass on all of their assets, their fortunes, and everything. Their total authority. It happens all the time. It's out there. I'm seeing it happening on an immigration scale, where in this particular case I'm working on, the family members come in, there's 6 or 7 of them, one is an RN, he is registered, he can sign off. So then you get the other family members under different names, because when they come into your country, you can't speak their name, so they get given an allocated name, or a name that they accept. These names are not necessarily related to each other, as in the surname or the sire name, the name of the family given. So they turn around, then you can see there's no connection between these parties. But then when you start seeing the way that they play these scams, they go around and they accuse people. Now, going through the sexual violations and information I have, I've gotten to see how some of this crap works. Now, you have an RN that will sign off any allegations to a family member. Now, this is not taken out of the organisation. This is held within the organisation. The organisation becomes payable. They become the ones who have to pay out the compensation to the person who has been offended in that position because that they've been put into. So they turn around and say, well, I've been sexually violated by this person who scratched himself, so therefore I need you to pay me X amount of dollars if you want me to continue this work and keep my mouth shut. But in the long run, that information, that allegation has been put down on that other person's chart. Innocent, there's no innocent until proven guilty, is put down on the chart, and when the placement is needed to be found, this is already information that has been spread out through all of these different environments, and then at the end of it, no. If you go and put that person into the environment with that allegation on their chart, they're treated totally different. There's a bully, there's harassment. The treatment is not productive to the well-being of their life, okay, the rest of their journey, their comfortability. All right, I've seen this, I'm seeing this, it's everywhere, okay, and this is a repeated pattern. Now, the outside of this organisation, they no longer share this information with anybody because it happened in their environment. They don't want this on their record. You take a close look at each of these rest homes that you choose to go and have any work with, you will find a list of allegations against these organisations. Go further and find the information, find out what took place and see if it connects to what has taken place to what's just happened to your allegation or your charge. You know, I'm just explaining the areas where I'm at, all right? I've gone to the police, they've told me what their system rules are, how they can work with it, how they can't work with it, the areas that they recommend you go to. Sometimes you'll get a lucky break where a person who has actually been in an environment, I'm lucky because at this point in time and I'm in a small environment and the people that I'm interacting with on these authority sides, I've lived here all their life and worked with the people in this environment. This is their community. These are community officers. They want to see the right. They've watched the people grow up. They've watched them change throughout the journey. So they've got a different aspect to somebody who's just come into the country and become a police officer who's all rough and tumble and has to follow the rule book. So in doing this, you go down to neglect. Another form of abuse is neglect, not providing the physical, emotional, or social needs. In other words, inadequate food, inadequate clothing. Now, these people get to a certain stage where they can't tell you whether they're hot or cold. So you have to look at the physical symptoms. You have to have a look at their skin texture, whether it's purple or whether it's pink. You know, when we get to a certain age, all our vein structures start to show themselves. You know, we start seeing a bruise, how easy it is for a person to be bruised. You can see that, you know, the sweat coming from them if they're overheating. They go through these different stages where they no longer are able to tell you whether they are hot or cold. You have to take that responsibility to identify the signs and the receptors, the symptoms of showing that they are too hot or cold. You need to create the environment in their bedroom so they are safe in their bed, where they are warm, they are not too cold. If they are wetting themselves on a constant basis, you know, they wear certain, you know, you get to a stage in one of the charges I have, they now have to wear a diaper. Now, at the same time, a diaper, I don't say diaper to this particular person. I call it their undergarment or their underwear, because I'm establishing that this is your form of underwear. This is what you wear in that location of, you know, your area now, instead of an underpants or a material object of that form. But in doing so, you know, you get to a stage where they no longer understand the signs. They don't understand their feeling state. The other day I was gone for a couple of hours. I popped back, and in that time, you know, they become pretty stealth. They become, you know, ninja. They try to find ways of escaping all the time, and oh, it's absolutely crazy, and I totally love it. It totally stresses me out, but I see it for what it is. It's a journey that I'm experiencing, and it's always keeping me on my toes because it's a one-on-one. And when I came back, they were wearing 3 pairs of diapers because they didn't understand the concept of one any longer. They had this reaction, this feeling. They somehow knew automatically to put on another diaper to be able to take that feeling state away, and yet because they still were able to feel it, they went and put another one on. So I'm looking at the different mental reactions to the physical feeling states, knowing that the temperature is about to change for them. Their thermostat's about to go out. You've got the rubbing of the fingers. I make sure that they have socks on. I make sure that they take their shoes and socks off after a shower. Unless it's cold, I dry the feet, put the socks on. When it's warm, I dry the feet, I leave them out to air, because the toenails, if you don't manage all the areas, you've got your hair, you've got your eyes, you've got your hearing, you've got hair up your nose, you've got your dentures, you've got your tongue, you've got all these areas, you've got shaving, you've got all these different areas of your body that you have to make sure are noted and taken care of. You get to a certain stage where you can't even bend down anymore and trim your own toenails, let alone anything else, So you have to find ways now that you can manage those areas later on, or look for the areas now. For me, just recently going through 6 or 7 funerals, one after the other, having to take responsibility of firsthand picking out the coffin, making sure the body was taken care of, making sure the body was dressed, making sure the makeup was correct, all these different stages of our life and death. They're not spoken about, but they are very important to us. The system is not going to help us. I'm just going to jump onto a question that I do know that was sent to me, which I haven't looked at just at the moment, so we'll just have a look at it. All right. Have I ever encountered the malevolent jinn? Yes, I have. I see these quite regularly working in these environments, in the different locations. For me, jinn comes in different forms of parasitical entities as well as just troublemakers, energy draining and mischievous makers. Now, in these environments, when you get a group of people together, I see these parasitical entities feeding off each other, recreating different areas of distraction and so on. Now, going into the wellness, when I'm in these different communities, as in church gatherings, retirement villages, I see them, and I see them as the lowest of low parasitical beings, because these people have next to no energies left to give, yet they're still being fed off. When you're able to actually reach out and communicate with the host, and the host can come back and actually communicate with you, this is when these weaker parasites that are at the bottom feeders are there feeding. You can break their links by turning around and saying, okay, I'm addressing the host, or I'm addressing the parasite. In the old scriptures and stuff, you will see that if you name your demon, that you have a power over them. It's just, for me, it's personally identifying there is an entity source there, and knowing and letting them know that you are aware of their energies and what they're doing. You can change it. They get weak. They don't expect us at this point to be able to see and interact with these energies around us. All right, I have another question come in. I hope that helps you. Another question come in. Have you incorporated music? I definitely do. When it comes down to the music, as I've said in past, as in the dementia and Alzheimer's, they divert through, they go through the different stages of their life, and they revert back to these stages. So for me to be able to see somebody in a certain state, they're totally lost, they don't know who you are, they don't know who they are, they don't know their environment, they want to go home, they don't know where the home is, they're in their home. When you can surround them with memory spikes, like, triggers, like for what I I have a portrait on the wall of a horse that he once owned. And when he's totally not there with me anymore, I'll say, can you describe what's going on in this picture? And at this point, it still works. And when it doesn't, I'll have to find something else. And I will. I'll keep doing this. And it sparks his memory. Then I get him to communicate with me. Now, it's the same as when I'm using music. I put the music on and he will sing, he will get into it, but he will not hear or know the song that is going on because we have different music. But it will spark an interest of a memory of a sound that he once heard. When I start hearing him talking and singing the words of that particular song, I'll go look it up, or the primary caregiver will go and look it up, and we will actually find there's actually a real song. When we listen to it, sometimes it sounds absolutely nothing like what we just heard on the radio. But we're able to see an area where he's picking up on some frequency that has spiked a memory or triggered a memory, and it has he's turned around. He's got a good emotion going on. When they're singing, when he's singing, I know that he's happy. He's in a certain mindset, and I could talk to him on a level. Now, with all my clients, I have to stay calm. I have to keep it all together, and I stay calm. No matter how much they rile me up and stuff and push my buttons, I have to stay calm with them, because it's no help to me to turn around and have somebody who I cannot actually communicate with in any level. I have to be able to lift them up. I have to be able to move them around. I have to be able to dress them. I have to have them accept the food that I'm giving them and trust me on that level. And that is important to me, because this is how I am. I choose not to harm other beings around me. The music allows them to sing. It allows them to dance. It allows them to keep some of that memory going on. At night it really bugs me, because in the early hours of the morning he's up singing as loud as he can. And you have to try to turn around and say, I'm sorry, you have to go back to bed now. It's still night time. In a couple of hours, we'll have some breakfast and I'll put some music on and you can sing. It's like you have to revert. It's really horrible to say this, but it is a fact. You have to revert back to the childlike infant stages, because this is what they're going through. At the moment we're lucky. Well, I'm not, we can work on this on both sides of it. I'm still able to manage the different areas where he needs the support in. But there are other areas where he is now too much effort, too much energy. I cannot sustain my own energy or the energies of my environment around me. I'm on the go 24/7. There is not enough hours in the day. I have several jobs. I can't maintain my own wellness when everything else around me has to be put on hold for those outside of me. Now, I'm, very aware that, is it service to self or service to others? Now you break that down. Do not be ashamed. Do not be embarrassed. Do not take on the blame, shame, guilt game if you put yourself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself right now, you will not have the abilities to take care and make the correct decisions for the others around you. You go into sleep-deprived states. You start forgetting things. You start losing important things. You have to see the signs for yourself. Now, I haven't covered everything that I had planned on covering, but I hope that I've helped you somehow today. I never even managed to take a break. So I hope you've all enjoyed the show. There is a lot more to it. Oh, wait on, there's another question. Do I feel this, I've got to scroll down. Do I feel the care system is sustainable as levels of dementia and degeneration diseases increase? No, I'll tell you straight up now. There is not enough services out there. There are not enough people being trained, correctly trained in these environments. There's too much of passing the buck or passing the case on to somebody else. When it's too hard, they put you in the too hard pile. This is like every single location of our lives. Start taking responsibility for yourself, the actions that you expect that you do for yourself to be implied on those closest around you. You may not ever be able to have good communication stuff. Now, on the other hand, I have to close the chapter on my past life with my family, my brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, because of the life that they chose to have. I choose to have absolutely no connection. And to this point, I don't really care who takes care of them when they get to that stage. I don't care. I want no part of it. But in the situation that I'm in, I've been able to see, some areas of similarity, but I've also been able to see the work that these people have put in over time to pay for the damages, the crimes, the mental states, the behaviours, everything. This is a very unjust decease, okay? This is a created, manufactured by our waters and the chemicals and the food states and the medications that we are given. We can do something about this. We can make the environment the best that we possibly can for those that are already stuck in that loop. We can keep investigating by changing the food groups, by looking into this information for somebody else. We're also looking into this information for ourselves. We need to better our vessels, stop allowing others around us to dictate how we need to live any longer. We can do this within working with the system, knowing how the system operates. Anyway, on that, I wish everybody safe journeys. I'll be back probably on Thursday, otherwise your Tuesday, my Wednesday morning, with another show of Transmutations and probably another update. And I wish you all very well and safe journeys. Thank you for tuning in and being in the chat room, and for People Radio, which you can find us on peopleforpeople.ning.com. You're fantastic. Have a great week, and remember, self comes first, otherwise you can't look after anybody else. You can't look after your environment. Now, I never got to the UFOs and stuff, but I'll leave that for another show. So, be well, everybody.